I know it's been a few months since VCT Champions 2024, but if you remember watching EDG, you might have thought, man, I wish I could play like Kang Kang in my ranked games. And who could blame you? He broke the Valorant kill record in the grand finals, getting 111 kills across the best of 5 series. He also beat out many other top Duelist players like Texture, Aspas, or Durka. He also plays 3 of the most popular Duelists in the game to an absolute cinema level of play. And he does this all against tier 1 professional players like himself. From the outside looking in, it may seem impossible to implement what he does into your own gameplay. But in this video, I'll show you how there's a lot you can learn and implement into your ranked games from Kang Kang's gameplay, as long as you know what you're looking for. Hey guys, it's Konpeki here, and in today's video, we'll learn exactly what separates Kang Kang from the rest of the duelists in VCT, how his skills can translate to ranked games, and I'll also go over some clear examples that can help you implement his playstyle. However, if you do need more hands-on help to implement these tips and your rank is at least silver, my team of Radiant and VCT coaches can help you rank up 500 RR in just 10 weeks guaranteed, or you get your money back inside the Immortal Roadmap program. You'll be getting over 100 hours of personalized coaching with hands-on drills, scrims, and one-on-one VOD reviews to make sure you learn everything you need to hit Immortal Plus. So if you're serious about putting in the work to see results like some of our players, and you want to work with world-class coaches like Milan, who won champs in 2021, click the link in the description below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to see if we'd be a good fit. Hurry, because the next season of our program starts in a week and we have limited spots available. Now, back to the video. To make it easier to analyze how Kang Kang plays, I want to first go over the important fundamentals that Kang Kang absolutely nails that separates him from the average ranked player and even other pros. That way, I can talk about what I believe makes Kang Kang truly special, which is his insane decision-making skills. As a ranked player, I think it's pretty clear that one of the biggest factors that separates pros from us is their mechanics. The highlight reels from 2024 from players like Tens, Benji Fishy, and Texture are definitely worth the watch. I think we've all seen some of these jaw-dropping clips that taught us to appreciate tier 1 mechanics. And honestly, our Chinese superstar is very much in the same league as them. Of course, he has the benefit of being the MVP of this year's champions to back up his mechanics, but it's also not every day you get to break the kill record on the grand final map of the event. Realistically though, I'm not telling you anything new here. During last year's champion season, many people already saw the crazy speed at which Kang Kang was able to dispatch of Navi's players in an effective 1v5, only for him to do it again in the literal next round. And ever since then, he's never really left the radar. So as step 1, if you want to fight Kang Kang for the next year's Champions MVP status, you obviously need really good mechanics to even stand a chance. To best reflect Kang Kang's flashy aim style, I'm going to show off some quick routines you can do in the practice range that focuses on replicating his sniper rifle prowess. First, we'll work fast to warm up with the martial routine. Start with going to the wooden dock with the flying targets. Go in the center and start trying to move and quickscope between each target. This is mainly to warm up our aim with our scoped weapon, as well as our speed for identifying, stopping, and shooting at a target with a sniper rifle. If you start to feel comfortable with this, you can further challenge yourself by going on top of the roof around the dock and doing the same routine. The terrain is more uneven and more reflective of a ramp or staircase in a map you might be targeting people from. Next, we'll work on our flicks and pre-aiming with the operator routine. For the flicks, go to the starting bridge when you first enter the range. Start with standing between these 2 trees looking at the 2 drones out near the sky. Stand still and flick from the center of these 2 drones as they may go back and forth from the bridge. We're practicing the same type of flicks Kang Kang made as he killed CNED on the updraft. The goal is we are isolating the initial flick, then we'll peek between these 2 trees and mimic this peek even further. Go from tree to tree, peeking the bots, flicking between one or the other as you go from tree to tree. You can also stay on one tree and go back and forth from the center point. But in either case, you're practicing peeking and flicking to a target with the operator, just like Kang Kang. On the other side of this, you can pre-aim each of the different targets if you go to any of the doorways surrounding the dock, or go behind any cover like the trees. Practice peeking, pre-aiming, and dashing away can get you into the groove for your ranked games. And of course, mechanics isn't everything. The next key factor that the best pros like Kang Kang have perfected is their mindset. If you've ever seen VCT, you know the ultimate test for mental strength isn't just grinding for months and years on end, but also the insane amount of time you're just sitting there waiting on stage during tech pauses. Jokes aside, pro players have all sorts of ways to deal with the mental pressure and stress that's apparent in all stages of play. Aspas has his iconic nap mode while in breaks or pauses. Boaster has a positive attitude of a saint, and our superstar, he has some of the best energy on the planet when he's on stage. After he wins his team an important round, he likes to stand up and if he's feeling it, even hits the enemy with a pose. He keeps his team's energy high, and he makes sure everybody is in a good mood and having fun. But energy isn't the only thing he brings. As with all pros, you need great game sense to balance out the raw mechanical skill and energy to play at your best. Normally, you might think of players like Saucy to have the game sense to read their opponents, but as we'll see in the final concept that I'll cover, this destructive force we call Kang Kang wouldn't break the kill record with just mechanics alone. And that leads us to the biggest gap between him and other pros. Kang Kang has some of the best decision making of any pro in the game. Well, Konpeki, what the heck does decision making even have to do with any of the three other things you just mentioned? Decision making and its framework to success is a key factor that involves all three of those pro fundamentals I just mentioned. Having a good decision making framework helps you get the most out of your mechanical skills. It helps you make sure your mental is kept in check because you're confident in all your plays, and it ultimately helps you create consistent impact by going for low risk, high reward plays. That's what makes Kang Kang so good and what separates him from the other players. Take baking a cake as an example. You need a recipe to know exactly what you need to mix and match ingredients, how long and how hot you need to bake, and know what flavor you're looking to create so you aren't making something nasty to eat. That recipe is a framework to correctly decide what steps to take to bake a cake. It's the same thing in Valorant. You need to know what a good decision-making framework is so you can cook in your ranked games as well. So in order to play like Kang Kang, I'm going to give you a framework using the NIH research on the decision-making of elite athletes and coaches. And to make it easier to understand, I'll make sure to break everything down into two easy to follow sections. The first section of what makes him so good is his anticipation. If you can anticipate your opponents and your teammates' decisions, it can make your life a lot easier as a duelist. And in the case of Kang Kang, that's exactly how he plays so patiently despite playing Duelist. Let's break it down by looking at how he utilizes anticipation to decide where and when to rotate while defending to net him an unbelievable round. It's map 2 against Trace Esports and round 4 has begun. EDG chooses to take A main with a one-way smoke, and Kang Kang leads the charge with Smoggy. After seeing that no one is contesting them at the start of the round, Kang Kang immediately rotates away to B site while the enemy is defaulting. He leaves Smoggy alone because he can cycle the one-way smoke and hold the A line by himself since he has 2 more cycles on his smokes left. So as Kang Kang is rotating, you may notice one thing that might be different than other duelists. He doesn't use his neon sprint to rotate. Why is that? The reason why he doesn't run during his rotation is because in a default setup where the attackers have taken mid, players and tiles can hear any noise made on the A side of the map. That includes Kang Kang if he chooses to sprint. So he anticipates the players in tile, chooses to walk during his rotation, and that allows him to be close enough to B site for when the site hit comes from Trace Esports. Now, before I talk more about his great mechanics here, let's break down a key thing he does before taking his first fight. Because he still has his entire kit to play with, he can take more aggressive fights in the mid round. So another key aspect to anticipation he has is knowing when his kit should actually be used and when he should go for fights onto his teammates. As he takes each fight, notice what he uses to his advantage in each duel. For the first fight, he asks for the one-way cage placed by his teammate to help him as he shoots away at Fang. After this kill, it gets a little more chaotic, with Chichu getting caught and mid being opened up without his trips. So Trace resets and gaps are forced to be covered. Remember though, Kang Kang has been anticipating each move that Trace has made so far with his reads. So he takes space to fight B mate more aggressively, and nobody holds spawn. After nobody falls, I pops his neural theft, and Kang Kang is already in a position to catch Trace off guard. But before the first ping, he swings B main and goes crazy with his movement. After his next kill, he stuns, jumps, then slides to kill his next victim. Keep in mind, Neon is fully accurate now as she slides, so he abuses this by jumping before the slide to throw off the crosshair of anyone holding for a trade. After this, he receives the bomb, plays for time, and gets this insane ace to win the round. What set him up to be in the best spots possible to utilize his mechanics was his anticipation or understanding of Trace Esports decisions. So to implement some of that in your own games, if you can understand your opponents and your teammates' actions faster than anyone else, you can start to make key decisions that lead you to better outcomes. One way you can do this today is as simple as looking at agent compositions. While it's not one-to-one, if your team or the enemy team picks 3 or more duelists, you can generally expect more aggression across the map. Therefore, you can anticipate playstyles before the game finishes loading in, and maybe you can start to save for an op. Plus, even if you're wrong about how aggressive they are, you can always adjust once you learn their playstyle and anticipate the next best course of action, just like the champ anticipated Trace Esports' different plays and abilities. Now, the second section of Kang Kang's decision making in Valorant is creating windows of opportunity or understanding those windows throughout a match. He does this masterfully in terms of entry potential and exploiting timings based off of information given in a round. And nothing shows that better than in the grand final match between Team Heretics and EDG. The round I'm sure most of you are familiar with is when we got the BO5 kill record broken in real time. In terms of windows of opportunity, this is one of the smaller ones you might not see in your ranked games, so pay attention. With a KO knife thrown showing no one close to B main, EDG all walk up together to take the space. But keep in mind, Kang Kang is leading the charge, and they aren't necessarily expecting Team Heretics to wait out this knife. But remember, even if they are there, the reason they are pushing is because of the window of opportunity created by the KO knife that gives them not only information, but the space to push as well. Let's look at how mechanics and game sense plays into this window of opportunity. First, with game sense. Notice EDG is on an eco. This fact means that the Guardian from Kang Kang isn't going to be expected, because if EDG buys up and loses a round, they risk going into overtime if they lose. So the fact our MVP is hero buying into such an important round is unexpected. That leads us to the first contact. These first two kills aren't anything other than the GOAT's crosshair placement and reaction time, giving him monstrous frags. Remember, this was an eco, and 2 rifles down off of the hero buy is already a win. So he decides he's gotten his fill, throws a smoke, and dashes away. But Team Heretics doesn't want to let him get away without getting traded out, and Kang Kang knows this, so he throws his last smoke to isolate Boo after he kills Smoggy. This isolates Boo into an awkward angle to punish him, giving him an opportunity for another kill. Now, something you may not have noticed at a first glance is that Reigns is actually darting mid at the start of the round, which means if he wants to run and support the push, he's most likely going to be coming from spawn later than the rest. The hero swing from Boo turned into a secured loss for Team Heretics because Reigns couldn't rotate fast enough to play with him. Each kill achieved, Kang Kang considers what his teammates' utility, his own utility, and the enemy's expectations are. Each of these different factors lead into different windows of opportunities, along with the most iconic play of Champs 2024. With everything mentioned in mind, your decision making should be not only clearer, but easier to make with this framework directly into your gameplay. You don't have to do all of this with recording software to look over your VODs either. You can do this round by round or game by game and get a better perspective on what your decision making framework looks like overall. Because if there's one thing for certain, Kang Kang definitely makes clear and concise decisions that consistently put him on top, not only on the scoreboard, but also in the game. That'll be all. Thanks for watching.